Welcome back to another kitchen video where we are going to make some yummy stuff. I'm going to make this breakfast casserole, and this is some leftover meat from yesterday. I'm also going to use mascarpone, some eggs, some bone broth and some grated cheese, and I have these extra egg whites, some heavy whipping cream and some egg white bread. And I'm starting with the meat. I'm just cutting up all of the meat into smaller pieces, so it's about the size that you would want to put in your mouth. So it's a lot easier to eat than if it was into big pieces. I have cut up the rest of the egg white bread that I made last week, and I cut it up into smaller squares, and I'm putting most of it in this big casserole, and I'm putting all of the meat on top of that. And into that bowl where I had the extra egg whites, I'm putting all of the other eggs in there, and then I'm going to mix up with some of the other ingredients. I'm putting all of the mascarpone in the bowl as well, and this is a good way to use up some of the things that might otherwise go bad. And some of these things are about to go bad, so this is why I'm using this today. I'm also putting in just a little cream, and this is some of the bone broth that I made in June from when we butchered our chickens. It's good to have some extra moisture because of all of the bread. It will suck up a lot of that moisture. And if you weren't eating keto, you could just use regular bread. I'm just using the egg white bread. I'm also putting in some extra salt and some pepper. And I'm also using some Worcestershire sauce and just some various spices. And you can do it whatever you like. You could just put in some salt and pepper and leave it at that, or you can put in some other spices. You could, for example, make it Mexican or Indian spiced or something like that. I'm just using some other spice blend that I have and putting in some of that just to give it a little more flavor. I didn't have room for all of the egg white bread in the big casserole, so I'm also making two smaller ones that Preben can use for his lunches, or he could eat it as a breakfast, whatever he likes. So I'm just putting them into there, and then I'm going to blend all of the egg mixture and cheese mixture up with my immersion blender. I really like it this way compared to just mixing it, because the eggs are so slimy, and when you're blending it, it will get a lot easier to pour out and to distribute all over the casserole. This is some cheese and some bacon that I'm using in Preben's two casseroles, because I used all of the meat in the big one. So I'm just putting the bacon onto the egg white bread and mixing them around a little. And now I'm pouring the egg mixture on top, and of course I'm putting most of it on the big casserole and then just a little on the two smaller ones. And then I'm going to put the cheese on top, and on Preben's I'm using this really melty cheese that I have here, and then on the big casserole I'm just using some grated Emmentaler. This won't melt as good as the other one, but it's okay. And now they are ready to go into the oven, and I'm going on with the next task. That is some keto cookies with hazelnut butter, and they are so delicious. And I found the recipe on Instagram on something called Rikkes Kokkerier. It's a Danish page. I will try to link it down below, or else I'll put the ingredients in there. Of course I didn't follow the recipe exact, because it called for some pumpkin butter, but I had hazelnut butter, so that is what I used instead. and it also called for almond flour, erythritol, egg, vanilla, baking powder and salt. So it's a really easy recipe that you're just mixing together and putting onto a baking sheet and bake. So that's really easy to make cookies this way. And because I didn't have enough nut butter, I put in some of these hazelnuts in smaller pieces, and that worked out really fine. I weighed the whole dough, and then I'm weighing every blob I make, so it's approximately the same size, because I find it a little difficult else to get the same size cookies, and so that none of them are really big or really small. And when I have plopped all of them out, I'm going to roll them into smaller balls and press them down so that they look a little more like cookies. I'm also putting some of the hazelnut pieces on top of them and pressing it down so that all of them won't fall out. And this is how I'm going to bake them. But before I'm baking these ones, I'm going to bake the casseroles, and then when the oven is nice and warm, I can also put in the cookies. In Denmark right now, the electricity prices are really high, so we are always concerned about how we are using our ovens. So in the middle of the day where I'm baking this, it's cheaper, and then I'm always going to bake a few things at a time so I can be a little more economic about it. And listen to this bacon grease sizzling. And the big casserole also turned out really well. And now I'm going to bake the cookies, and this is how they look when they are baked. And you have to cool them entirely because they're really fragile, as you can see now where I'm picking one up. They just break, but they are really tasty, and it's almost like nougat because of the hazelnut butter. And just to make them a little more decadent, I'm putting on some melted chocolate that I had left over from another project. So just look at these, they are so delicious. And even though Preben doesn't eat keto, he loved these cookies and he almost ate all of them by himself. So that tells that they are really good. But thank you a lot for watching, and please subscribe and go and follow us on Instagram at Bestas Farm Life. Have a nice day. Bye bye.